Hi guys. So now that we have had a chance to do some creative writing and explore different aspects of creative writing and express ourselves creatively, we do need to take a step back and return here to at the end of the year to just wrapping up a bunch of the things that we've been working on all year. So that's what we're going to be starting today. We're going to be doing an abbreviated version of Unit 4 for these last few weeks of school, which is something that we would have been doing in class anyway. And there will be an assessment that goes along with it. So hopefully you're able to follow along with this. I'm going to try to make it as um, accessible as possible. So Unit 4 is a unit that's all about exploring the power of descriptive language, which is something that we really, if you were doing what I was asking you to do in the creative writing unit, is something that we've been working on in one respect or another for several weeks now, so descriptive language. But in this case, instead of you using your own descriptive language, we're going to return to looking at how other authors have really used it to their advantages. So like I said, there will be an assessment at the end of this Unit 4. And so I just want to go over the types of things that I'll be looking for you to do in that assessment. And this assessment is also something that can help you improve or maintain the grade that you have, so that by the end of the year, hopefully, everybody has the opportunity um, to improve from where they were before school stopped. So the first thing that I'll be assessing is a reading skill, as has always been the case all year long. And in this case, I'll be looking for you to find descriptive language as evidence in order to comprehend and interpret a work of fiction. So we'll be looking especially at different types of descriptive language, and then you'll have to find examples of those, and you'll have to tell me what they mean literally, but also what they might mean figuratively. So that comprehension, what's going on as this descriptive language is being used, uh, but also like what does it actually mean, that interpretation aspect of it. For analysis, when we actually really get into the interpretation, I'm going to be looking for you to interpret imagery and word choice, which remember we use the word diction for word choice, and how imagery and word choice affect the character and the setting. So again, if you look at the things that are being said here, we worked on imagery in the previous unit. We worked on diction and talked about diction in the previous unit. You also were working on using imagery and diction to establish characters and settings. So these are things that you have done in the past, or I have asked you to do in the past, and now we're just going to be working with them in a different way, right? You were the one responsible for portraying a character in a setting through imagery and diction before. Now we're going to be looking at how other authors do it, and hopefully your experience of having done that will help you see how other authors are using it to their advantage as well. There will also be a writing component to this, so you will need to support a thesis in an effectively ordered essay with an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion, and by using transitions. That should sound pretty standard. It's something that we've done before. So in this case, there will be a final essay, and that final essay will be on the MyAP website in the last probably week of school or so. We'll see how far we get and all of that. But that's the plan right now. You'll need to be able to log into MyAP and complete the final essay for this. So we'll look at examples, we'll work with some examples, we'll go over the lessons that we need to go over, and then the essay will be similar to the previous essays where you are given something new to look at without my help, and you have to kind of do the things that we worked on as a class. So obviously this is going to be a little bit tricky because, I don't necessarily get to like sit down with you or, do activities with you in real time. But I'm going to do my best to make sure that I still offer you the same types of insights that you might get and practice that you might get, even though it's, from home. So let's first look at how previous learning that we've done throughout the year can help you with accomplishing these skills. I've made a few mentions of that on the previous slide, but let's look a little bit deeper. And I really do recommend that you take some notes here. Otherwise, you may need to come back to these videos and revisit them. But the hope is that you can take some notes so that you have them there for you as we work through these things. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how things that we've done in the past can help you with the reading skill. So I think the really important things for you to remember from previous learning are that when we're reading, there's basically two ways that we read. We read for denotation, which is what the text literally means. So if the text says he went to the store, it literally means he went to the store, right? That's what it means. It just, the denotation is the literal meaning of the text. And we've worked on this over and over. When we read essays, what is these essays about, student work and all of that kind of stuff. There was a lot of literal meaning there. However, when we're looking at fiction especially, we also look at the connotation or the deeper meaning or the implications of the text. So if the example, he went to the store, literally means he went to the store, the connotation may be, depending on what the situation is, that he was trying to escape something that was happening at home, right? It may not say he went to the store to escape his screaming parents, but you may be able to imply or connote that that's what he was doing. Maybe he didn't need to go to the store, but he went there because we know he's having trouble at home. Now that's just an example. You can have denotation and connotation in sentences, but also with just specific words, right? You pick a word because it literally means something, but you also pick it because it has certain connotations to it that it makes people think of certain things as they read that word. So that can help with your reading skill. For the analysis skill, this time we're specifically calling out imagery. So remember that we've already learned that imagery is language that creates physical sensations for any of the five senses. It doesn't have to be just visual imagery. It can be, sight, sound, taste, smell, touch. So all of those are considered imagery in the realm of writing. The example that we're going to look at today, this week, isn't going to have a lot other than visual imagery, but as we go through some other examples, you want to remember that it can be any of the five senses, and that imagery will often have, a connotation to it as well as an important thing that you might want to remember. You might also want to remember, or you do want to remember, diction is purposefully chosen words. So we pick words specifically because they mean what we want them to mean, but we also pick words because they imply certain things, right? So if I wanted to describe myself as skinny, and I chose the word skinny, then it literally means that I'm skinny, but it generally has, positive connotations to it, that I'm skinny. Now, if I chose a word like sickly, then it literally means, sickly means, it can mean skinny, so or thin. but the connotation is negative, right? So am I going to choose to describe myself as skinny, or am I going to choose to describe myself as sickly? That is a purposeful word choice or a purposeful diction choice that I have to make. And then for help with the writing skill, just remember that this is stuff we've been working on all year, right? Like writing an introduction that grabs somebody's attention, having a thesis statement that outlines what we're going to prove in our body paragraphs, having body paragraphs that include topic sentences, that include evidence, that elaborate on that evidence. And when we elaborate, we're going to want to talk about denotation and connotation and imagery and diction and all the ways that those things tie together. And then using transitions as well that link us back to our thesis statements. And then finally, having concluding paragraphs that bookend our introduction, that return to the ideas from our introductions, that leave the audience considering like broad possibilities and feeling as though that they have read something that's actually meaningful to them that they can learn from. So there's really nothing new here. Everything that I'm presenting to you is stuff that we've gone over in the past. It's just that we're going to be looking at it in ways that we maybe haven't yet this year. And I want you to remember that as long as you show growth over the previous work that we've done, so the things that I'm bringing up here, then it's possible that you could improve the grades that are currently in the gradebook. So we'll see how that goes. So let's look at this example now. I've spent about 10 minutes introducing you to just the things that we're going to be working on. We'll start with this week will be a fairly straightforward example. This is from the reader, which you can find on Canvas. So I recommend that you go back and you read this. You will need to use that reader. It'll be electronically available to you on Canvas. This is the first selection from it, and it's a selection from a book called The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner, who's a famous American author. He writes some pretty difficult things, but we won't get into any of his really difficult stuff in this class. So what we should be asking ourselves for this activity is, what do imagery and diction reveal about the character and the setting in this case? So even though this is a really short example, we actually learned quite a bit about the character and the setting here. So this is the excerpt from The Sound and the Fury from William Faulkner. April 7th, 1928. Through the fence, between the curling flower spaces, I could see them hitting. They were coming toward where the flag was, and I went along the fence. Luster was hunting in the grass by the flower tree. They took the flag out, and they were hitting. Then they put the flag back, and they went to the table, and he hit the other, and he hit, and the other hit. Then they went on, and I went along the fence. Luster came away from the flower tree, and we went along the fence, and they stopped, and we stopped, and I looked through the fence while Luster was hunting in the grass. Here, Caddy, he hit. They went away across the pasture. I held to the fence and watched them going away. Listen at you now, Luster said. Ain't you something? 33 years old, going on that way? After I done went all that way to town to buy you that cake? Hush up that moaning. Ain't you gonna help me find that quarter so I can go to the show tonight? All right. So again, William Faulkner can be a little bit difficult, and some of you may be struggling here. So to know exactly what's going on, and that's kind of the point. So let's just look at a couple of examples from this reading. Let's first look at a piece of imagery from the reading. From up at the beginning, it says, through the fence, I could see. I cut out that middle part, right? This is a visual image. Through the fence, I could see. It's a visual cue. And the visual cue is that we're looking through a fence, right? We know what that's like, the slats and the kind of barred off way that it makes you feel separate, right? So if we're looking at the reading skill, we know that like literally this means I know that the character is peeking at something that they're separate from, right? They're looking through a fence. This imagery puts us, literally separates the character from whatever's going on the other side of the fence. So that's all we need to know, right? Now, as far as analysis goes, we can start to explore that a little bit more. It makes me feel separate. It almost feels like sneaking, right? Like when you're peeking through a fence, you're watching through a fence, like you're not supposed to be there. Like the character is purposefully kept apart from the other characters or from the action, and maybe the character is disliked or looked down upon, you know. So just this one single piece of imagery, barely even a complete sentence, not even a complete sentence, tells us actually quite a bit about this character and the situation that they're in, and it makes us wonder about, you know, what's going on with this character if we're careful. And that's just a single piece of imagery. We can also look at a diction choice. The word hunting is repeated, I believe, twice in the first sentence, and I think it's twice. In the first paragraph, and so this is on purpose. That when an author uses a word more than once, especially in one paragraph, you can bet that it was done on purpose. And so we have to we can confidently say that this is a purposeful diction, this is a purposeful word choice. So we can focus in on this word and say, you know, what does hunting mean? Well, I know that hunting means that there's when we're hunting for something, there's predator and there's prey. But what we don't know is what these people are hunting for, right? Who are the predators? What is the prey? You know, is the prey the character who's peeking through the fence? Do we know? Are they hunting for something else? We're not sure, right? And that word is used twice, so our attention is brought to it. Now, in terms of analysis, the use of the word hunting as opposed to searching, right? Why didn't they use searching? They're using the word hunting. So this word makes it sound like there might be an element of violence or some kind of sinister undertone to this place that we're being introduced to. So just this single, I guess it's twice used, but it's a single word choice, helps us establish like where we are and what's going on here, and just a, you know, a kind of a sense of the setting that a different word choice may have given us a different sense. So it does require us to read carefully. If we're not careful, we may not pick up on that. But once we do read carefully, we notice that imagery and diction really are revealing quite a bit about the character and the setting, and I've only given you one example of each. So you're going to practice now on Canvas. You'll go back, you'll use this exact same excerpt, and you're going to read and analyze your own examples of imagery and diction on Canvas. I want you to be aware that there's much more than I've given you in this lesson. In this particular example, I know it's short, but there's much more than I've given you in this lesson. I've just basically kind of scratched the surface for you. So you'll do that on your own. That is, and I'll check it. And then I will clarify some things for you once you've done this work with the shorter lesson for later this week. Good luck, and I am excited to see what you find.